right. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I'm here with Jasmine Houston-Rosado, HBCU graduate. Jasmine Rosado. She's been an HBCU graduate for a week now. Yay!
Hey everyone, peace and
Jasmine
blessings.
was, yeah. So we're here talking about her college experience, her journey to becoming a full ride scholar, to having everything covered at school. Um, and then Jasmine was like one of the first students that I started walking through from high school and coaching from the high school point. And I was actually doing that while I was still teaching. And I did not know that I was going to start this business, interestingly enough. So then we look back and was like, you've done all that with me. So that's the really cool thing about Jasmine is I was unofficially just coaching her through a process, and then I ended up starting this business. So she is the first official graduate for CollegeMode Academy. So she has that honor. And I promise her we're gonna turn all the way up when we're post quarantine. I'm gonna come to Miami. We're gonna eat all kinds of Cuban, Latin, American food,
Yes.
hoopina, drink hoopina, and go by favorite eating spots, all that stuff. That's the stuff me and
We
Jasmine
gotta
did
do
at high school.
Starbucks just
Like,
like the old times.
yeah, we do gotta do a throwback Starbucks. We gotta eat some twisted kernels, like all of
Yeah.
that all of that jazz, being jazz. We have to do all that stuff.
Yeah.
So today, I'm gonna start out. She has a lot to talk to you guys about, and we're really excited. I think that there's a lot for young people to learn from her and glean from her about her journey. So if you have a team, I know that mostly parents are on my channel and the students aren't on Facebook, so you may have to let them watch alongside you. But I think this particular interview will be helpful about pre-college and the actual college experience. So even if you have a class of 2021 2020 student, this will be helpful. And if you have a student in college, honestly, she's going to tell you some nuggets about how to get through this college experience, make money at the same time, and fill your resume up because this girl got a resume out of this world already.
Thank you.
All right, Jess. So tell them a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get started with the questions. I'm gonna share this out to make sure it's in all the right places.
Okay, well, hello everyone. Once again, my name is Jasmine Houston Rosado, and I'm a recent graduate of Bethune Cookman University. I recently earned my Bachelor's of Arts degree in English, and I'm originally from Miami, Florida. So I'm just so happy to be here today, and I'm also so excited to finally be done with undergrad and getting ready to move on to grad school.
Awesome. So, what are you going to be studying in grad school? Because your undergraduate major is English,
Mhm.
and people don't. They typically think like that's not a money or profitable college major. So, before we get into how you've made it profitable, let's talk about what you're doing now to make it even more profitable at the grad level.
Okay, so yes, like you said, a lot of people do not necessarily think that having an English degree is profitable. A lot of people also might say to themselves like, what can you really do with an English degree besides teaching? But there is so many things that you can do with an English degree. A lot of people that are hired in business marketing positions, they have English degrees. A lot of lawyers actually get their undergraduate degree in English so that they can learn how to write effectively once they're in law school. And if you think about it, really working within the political or legal system, you really have to learn how to communicate effectively. So it would make a lot of sense to get your undergraduate degree in English. But for me personally, I always wanted to be a writer. I'm a big fan of writing creatively, and I also have been writing and performing poetry and spoken word since high school now. And so I basically just set out the goal to always write, always compile different poems. And then once I felt like I was ready, I ended up doing some research on self publication. And I ended up publishing one of my first books on Amazon. And from there, I started actually making money from that as well. So that has been really exciting.
I was so excited when I saw her just post the book, and then she came behind that, and she had number one new release
Yes.
twice with the first book, and then she came back with the second book and
Yes.
killed it again. And
Yes.
so I was just super proud of her with those moments. So I want to share with you guys we can show you her books right quick since we're at that point where she just talked about them. I'm trying to get the tech together here, Jazz.
It's okay.
Uh-huh. All right. All right. So now you can see I'm a high.
Okay, now I can hear you.
Um, now you can hear me. Oh,
Yes,
you couldn't hear me before.
yes.
I'm sorry. Well,
It's
so
okay.
what I said was go support her. That's
Oh,
what I
thank you.
said. Go support. I said she was a struggling author, but the truth is she's an award-winning author. I said she was a struggling college student. Let me get my words together here. She's a
Thank you.
struggling college student, but not really. She already graduated, but she's trying to go to grad school. So she's in that in between world, guys. I'm going to drop the link to her author page. You guys can check out what she has and support, right?
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, please
All right.
support.
All right. Tiffany says she can hear. So as we go along, please drop your questions. Jasmine will be happy to answer them. I'll be happy to answer them as well. Her book is Talk to the Stars. If you go to the link, that's actually the link I just posted is actually the link to her author page. So you can see both books. She has two books. Talk to the Stars, and they're both poetry. And The Day the Walls Shattered. Her poetry runs deep. She's been writing poetry since high school. She had written a trilogy before she left high school.
Yes, and it is so
And
funny
Jazz
that
and I
you
used to
remember
sit out and
that.
I remember all of
I
that,
can't
Jazz. I
believe you
remember
remember
all of that.
that.
I was listening to your dreams and your hopes and encouraging you as much as I could.
Yes.
So Jazz has also uh, been a freelance writer and writing copy. She's written copy for both of my businesses. Yeah. So if you bought popcorn and you were all excited because of that description, that was Jazz's writing over there. She's written some stuff for CollegeMode early on. I don't remember what all it's done. But honestly, I have to give a shout out while both of you all are actually on this feed. Tiffany is in the comments and you're here live on screen. Last was August. Last August, going to Labor Day weekend, I got super sick and had to be hospitalized. And I'm just really grateful that both of you all, I said that to you and you both jumped in. Jasmine got in and made sure that the students' essay, some of the essay stuff was handled. She went over some of the work that I had already started working on. She created documents and posts for the Facebook group. Tiffany went in and moderated the group and kept the group active and engaged. And you all both made me comfortable that I was gonna have to step away whether I wanted to or not. And you all were adamant that you want to step away whether you want to or not. But I don't think Facebook, I don't know that you all were as aware of how sick I was. There were 6 weeks where I was not able to, I probably lost a good 25 to 30 pounds. And some of my friends were like, oh my God, you lost a lot of weight. Because I couldn't figure out what I could actually eat after that hospitalization. So I just want to publicly say thank you to you, Jazz, and to Tiffany. I really appreciate you guys. And I know the Facebook public, now that they know that they were actually in somebody else's hands, I don't know that they recognized that at that moment. But that they were, you guys took great care of them and supporting my students behind the scenes as well. So without further ado, go support her. She's an award-winning author. She's done some freelance work. Well, you what other freelance work have you done? I forgot because I had you doing copy, but you were doing some other stuff too.
So I've done copies for you. I've edited essays. While I was at Bethune Cookman University, I've also edited essays. And what was really cool about me editing different essays for the students, a lot of times when they would approach me, it could be like a peer or somebody I know from my class, and they would be like, "Oh, you know how to edit essays? Can you help me?" And I'm like, "Yes, I don't mind helping." And so what I would do is I would say, "Listen, you can either pay me to edit your essay, or if you sit with me in the library, I can teach you what I'm doing so that you don't have to ever worry about having somebody edit your essays again." And so either way, it was kind of always like a win-win situation for me because I love teaching people. So just getting a chance to show them,
Yeah.
oh, look, this is how you're supposed to do it, or this is how you can add a little extra pizzazz, or I can tell you exactly what your English teachers are looking for. And, that made me feel good. So just different things like that.
Oh my goodness. That is, and we've talked about her helping students edit essays. But sometimes, but this moment where she's talking about teaching them how to do it so they don't have to come back. I know that for me with Jazz, when we've talked through things, like she was working on her Silver Night project. If you ever heard me tell the story about the kid who did the suicide project over social media, that was so innovative because remember, Jazz graduated 2016.
Yes.
Yeah, 2016. So she was in with a group of people that were talking people down from suicide, doing Twitter chats, guys. And so she started working on that with Project Continue, and we talked about what that could be because she wasn't sure when she started the Silver Night Award. The Miami Herald newspaper down in Miami hosts that, by the way. She knew she wanted to do it, and she knew she needed to do a service, but she was just like adamant that it had to be a service that mattered. Like she just wasn't going to do something. But some people do something just because they want the award. But she was adamant, this needs to make sense and it really needs to make a difference. And she was like, will this work? Like, does it count that I'm doing this work over social media? And I asked her, does it matter for the other person on the other end? Yeah. Is it serving them? Is it changing their life by doing it? And she said, yes. And I said, so it matters. Go ahead with it. And she's like, well, I need to get a domain. And I'm like, let's do it. And so tell them a little bit about that, because I think that's important when I'm helping students develop that wow factor now. What is it that was important to you that it be done that way? But that was a wow factor definitely when people saw your body of work as a teenager coming out of high school. So tell them a little bit about why you chose that project and how it impacted the community.
Okay, so I particularly chose to do Project Continue and really do a community service project that dealt with suicide prevention because I had always dealt with my own anxiety and also insecurities and moments of depression as well. And so I know firsthand what it can really feel like when you might feel like nobody's in your corner. You may not realize the people that are in your corner. And so sometimes you just need a helping hand, somebody to give you an acknowledgement. I know a lot of times people who are just sad, they really just want somebody to look at them and acknowledge their worth, acknowledge their value, to give them some type of appreciation. And so as I got older, and at the time I was Christian, and so when I had gave my life to God and I gave my life to Christ, I'd seen the amazing things that he was doing in my life. And so because of that, I wanted to also help as well. And in high school, that's really what inspired me to go ahead and say, you know what, if he can save me from like depression and anxiety, then I can also help other people too. And that was really the main thing that I wanted to do for that. And I actually continued to take that project with me to college. And as recently as my junior year of college, I used to do Project Continue presentations for different organizations that I was a part of. So Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, my sorority, we did a project based on that. National Council of Negro Women, we also did a project based on that. Phenomenal Woman Think Tank, we did 2 projects based on the Project Continue seminar. So, yeah.
Good. Awesome. I didn't even know that, guys. So she is very active, and that's one thing I want to talk about. So as you segue, we've talked about what we're going to like her talking points kind of through this, but she's bringing them up so well that I'm gonna just follow along beside her. So, oh, you have a Sora in the comments, Miss Valita
Hey,
Fever.
how do I see the comment section?
That's gonna be good. I'll just, you know what? Let me put. So this is a cool thing about the platform we're using, Jazz.
Oh, I just
You
saw.
can see it on the screen.
Yes, great.
So your Sora is saluting you, and we want to talk about defining your own path because you started making that decision even before college. But once you got to college, you were even more adamant about this is what I want to do, and this is how I'm going to go about doing it. So talk a little bit about that because Jazz, let me just give y'all a little background so y'all know what kind of person Jazz is. So you can't ignore Jazz. Not that I was trying to ignore her, but Jazz would come in my classroom and talk about Victorian fashion that she was researching. And I would go, Jazz, really? And I mean, for me, anything I don't know anything about, I'm always a little intrigued about it. So Jazz would come in my classroom and tell me all kinds of little things she was just researching on her own. And I would go, really? So she had this whole, she was researching all this at one point. That was her thing. But I will say, whatever she wants to learn more about, Jess gonna go find the information about it. She's that person. And so when she decides she wants to go after something, she's gonna go after it. She's just learned, I think, even honed the skill even more so about how to find the resources to do what she wants to do. So tell us about how that started in high school, defining your path as a writer, and where it's ended up, because you've had some crazy stuff happen in the last 24 hours in terms of your path as a writer.
It's ridiculous. So I would really say it kind of started a little bit before high school when I was um, maybe I was probably like 6 or 7. I was a little girl, and just as a hobby, I used to write children's books. Like, it's not like my parents was trying to get it published. It was just something for me to do. I would staple paper together and just write different stories about princesses getting lost in the woods, or just different things like that. And I just always liked it. And my parents have always encouraged me, whatever it is you want to do, just keep chasing your dreams and stuff. And so as I was going through my school matriculation, I had did different things like drama and music, playing different instruments, but nothing ever caught my attention or kept my passion the way that writing did. And so once I was in high school, and at the time I had already been writing poetry for some years, but sophomore year of high school was really a pivotal moment for me because I became a little bit older and I started really paying attention to just the racial injustice that was happening at the time of our climate in our society. And so I really wanted to voice how I was feeling about it in an artistic way. And I thought, what better way to do that than to write how I'm feeling in poetry? And that's how I really got into the spoken word genre. It was from that point on that I started performing at different talent shows that my high school, Miami Killian Senior High School, would host. And then because of hearing different people hearing me do poetry, they would ask me to host different shows at the school. And then I just continued to perform until I graduated. Now, when I went off to college, I knew that I wanted to be a writer, but I said, not everybody is going to believe in you. So I decided to keep my dream to myself. And if anybody asked me what I wanted to do, I would just say something simple like, oh, I want to do journalism. Knowing deep down inside, I always wanted to write. And so I always kept writing. At the time when I was in college, I was hired to work as a work study student for the Performing Arts Center. So my bosses always let me speak at different events that the school was hosting. And that even landed me an opportunity to perform for Andrew Gillum when he was running for Florida State Governor. And that was really interesting because he asked for me personally to perform at his rally just because he heard me do other poems before. And so I say all of that to say that I think it's really important that if you have a dream or a goal, just go for it. Even if you haven't seen anybody else do it, maybe you really need to be one of the first people to pave the way or the first person to pave the way. A lot of my fellow English major peers, they are going to school to become lawyers or to become teachers, but I always wanted to do something slightly different. And even if it seems like it's a little challenging because nobody has done it before, I encourage you 10 times harder to go after it because then when you actually get the job done, it's going to feel super rewarding.
Yeah, absolutely. So she's been running hard after this dream. I remember having a conversation with her while she was, at college, and she was telling me she had just gotten her internship at I don't remember it's the Tampa Bay newspaper, whatever the
Daytona
name of
Beach
that
News
place
Journal.
is. Oh,
Yeah.
see, I made that up. We're on the wrong post. Daytona Beach Journal. Okay. So she had got an internship there, and she said, Miss Caraway, I am going to make sure that people say that you can't make money writing, but I'm going to become well versed in every genre of writing I can while I'm in undergrad. So that no matter what, I can always be hired as a writer.
Mhm.
Like no matter what needs to be written, I'm going to be able to, I will have had my footprint there in that space before and worked in that space before. So I'm going to be able to produce whatever is necessary, even if I'm not working as the type of writing that she prefers. She made sure that she was marketable. She was going to be marketable when she left college, right? So tell us a little bit about your fellowships. So she had two fellowships, guys, and an internship while she was doing work study and taking leadership roles in all these different organizations. So tell them about your fellowship and internship experience.
Okay. So I can't exactly remember what inspired me to say to myself, I want a form of a ship every year. But I just said when I went to college that I want to get a form of a ship every year, whether that was a fellowship or an internship. I just had to get something like that done. And so when I was a freshman going into my summer vacation that would lead into my sophomore year, I heard that the CURE research program, which is essentially a research program that pays students to do research on a plethora of different assignments that the students can think of. Really, they create their own community service projects and get paid for doing it, but not just small money. I'm talking about I was making like close to $5,000 the first summer I did it, and also the exact same amount the second summer I did it as well. And so I heard
Mm.
that the Cure was looking for people, and I ended up just getting picked. And me and my partner, who ended up getting picked, we got picked to do a project for the College of Liberal Arts, doing research on Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune as a womanist theologian. And we were the first group of College of Liberal Arts students to receive the Cure Fellowship. And then by surprise, we ended up getting picked up again the second summer for the very same project because they liked it so much. And so
Yeah.
I did that. And then in addition, before I did my second Cure Fellowship, because that was the summer leading into my junior year, but in between that, my sophomore year, I ended up getting an opportunity to become an intern at the Daytona Beach News Journal. And that was a really amazing experience because I really got a chance to learn how to interview people firsthand. And I'm not talking about mock interviews, like they literally had me go to real restaurants and write literal articles that they were publishing in their magazine or on their website. And in fact, if you look at my
Yeah.
name, Jasmine Houston-Rosado, you can still pull up one of my articles that I did for the Daytona Beach News Journal.
Yay. So one thing I want to talk about is, so you talked about at one point you told me before the borders got closed down, you were actually headed to Cuba to do part of your research. Like this fellowship
Yes,
was so amazing that
yes. So
they were gonna fly her over to Cuba to conduct some of her
yeah,
research.
so during the first Cure Fellowship, the our my okay, so basically how it works is it's either you or another student. It could be one student or two students, but you also have a mentor, and your mentor is a professor that works at the school. And so the students decide the project, and the mentor basically oversees that project. And so my mentor really wanted us to have a global experience with this fellowship and really put a global aspect within this project. And so what I mean by that is, yes, we were doing research on Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune as a womanist theologian, but we also wanted to see how womanist theologians are impacting other places in the world. And so with that, with
Mm.
doing that research, we wanted to further do research to see if maybe being a womanist theologian is only an American thing, or can that really transcend a global concept? So we had everything set, ready to go. Trump gets elected,
Yeah.
and everything just
I
closes
really
down
thought
from
I was
there.
gonna see some cute pictures of Jazz over in Cuba,
Yeah.
and because if you live in Miami, the Cuban culture has influenced Miami so much that it's only natural if you live there to want to see like that connection as well. Like that was going to be powerful because of where you've grown up at as well. So you've had some great opportunities there. You worked through that. I think that I wanted to step back to high school for just a moment and talk about your journey here with SAT prep, and there was one other thing we had for high school. But I wanted to talk about, so at one point she comes in my classroom and I have, I think, 4 or 5 books. 100, I spent $100 something on SAT prep materials for somebody else. And the person had not taken it seriously. But Jazz, being who Jazz is, looks over there on the bookshelf and goes, "Who are those books for? What is this for?" And I go, "You want them? Take them. Please use them and tell me how it goes, because I didn't want to have wasted my money." So Jazz took those books home and tell us. I titled this 30-minute SAT preps because that's how she chose to do her SAT prep. So tell them a little bit about like your plan that you came up with and how that worked for you.
Okay, so yes, Miss Caraway is absolutely right. I was always in her classroom, always bugging. I was always bugging. I apologize. Now that I think back, I was always bugging.
You weren't bugging me.
and
We always had, like, I would be grading papers and Jazz would be all over looking at stuff, telling me about 18th century Victorian clothes and I don't know, Project Continue or the lady. I mean, we talked about some of everything. There was a lot of things going on in the neighborhood, in the community at that point. We lost some kids at Killian
yeah,
due to violence. And we were talking about service learning projects because I was running the service learning. And a lot of times I needed a younger person's opinion. And a lot of kids were bussed in at Killian. Jazz was one of those that were bussed in, but she would stay after. Sometimes she do theater and stuff, and then I would carry her home. So she would come in, and we'd be talking about that while I was wrapping up, and then she would head home. But anyway,
but
we're
yes,
bugging.
so
Learned a
I
lot. Look what
stumbled
happened.
upon your.
You're the first grad for college mode. Look what happened.
Oh, I apologize. What did you say?
I said, look what happened. You were the first grad for college mode. Like if you had not been quote unquote bugging me, like
That
I
is
wouldn't
true.
even have a college mode graduate.
That is very true. That is very true. But so I was basically just in your room one day looking for I wasn't looking for anything in particular. I just ended up finding those books and then you asked me if I wanted them and I said, "Yeah, why not?" So I took them home with me and like Miss Caraway is suggesting throughout this whole interview, I am a nerd. So I research
I didn't
everything.
suggest that at all.
And so and so no, I'm proud of being a nerd. But so I, was basically just researching different cultures and once I got bored of doing that, I said, let me do something productive for my future, which is studying for these SAT tests. And I basically for about a month or maybe a month and a half before I took the test, I would take maybe 30 minutes a day and I would just look at the different resources that were in the books, but also, like I was telling Miss Caraway before we got on the live, those books encouraged me to basically go on the internet and Google other resources that were out there for the SAT. And I think that a lot of my peers don't realize how easy it is to come across success. All you have to do is just fight for it. As long as you are driven to fight for it, anything that you want will come your way. And so I wanted to make sure I was going to ace the SAT. And so I just put it in my head. Let me take this time, study 30 minutes a day, and also research other sources that are out there to help me.
Very good. She did excellent with that. When she got her scores back, I was like, you did that thing in one shot, Jazz. All right. So let's see. Where are we at? We talked about, so this is something Jazz. So we were talking about what we're going to talk about in this interview. And Jazz wanted to make sure this was out there for you guys. So if you have a college student that's going to go on to grad school, she wanted to talk a little bit about finding the money, um, and how that works and how that's going for her.
Okay, so for grad school, a lot of people are under the impression that I've come in contact with, at least my personal peers that I've interacted with, that a lot of them are not going to school to grad school because they feel like there is not an option for them to go, an option for them to pay. But unlike undergrad, there are a lot of different programs where the school themselves will pay for you to get a degree, and those are called assistantships. They can either be teacher assistantships or any other type of assistantship where basically you're exchanging some form of a skill where the school in return pays for your tuition. So you can look at that for a plethora of different programs, whether you're going into a STEM field or something that is more liberal arts based, like creative writing. However, if you do not fall in love with a school that you find an assistantship program for, that is more than okay. You still have the opportunity to find a plethora of scholarship opportunities. Just like you would research on fastweb.com to find your undergrad scholarships, you would do the exact same thing for grad school. And you would be surprised how many scholarships and opportunities are really out there. And two websites that was recommended to me by Miss Caraway is Pro Fellowship as well as One Stop. So I definitely recommend that you go ahead and check those websites out as well.
Awesome. And last but certainly not least, before I get your last like parting thoughts, I want to talk a little bit about Project 100. Full Rise didn't exactly exist when jazz was developed. When I was coaching Jazz 3, we were doing what she needed. Okay, one more. I have a question. Is this fine in areas like psychology? Yes.
Yeah.
So any major, like she said, any major you can find information on there for grad school. And I would suggest if they want to do assistantships and fellowships and things like that, they have to show that they've taken initiative in other areas for them to trust them with that work. Because while it is instructor led and instructor guided, there is a lot of autonomy in like you need to be a self starter in a sense. Like they expect that you're gonna, if you take on that role and they're paying you, that you're gonna actually follow through. So
Yes.
when they're in undergrad, you can't wait till you're ready to go to grad school and then be like, I'm about to get on it. Like they want to see your resume and see that track record, even if it's been a resident assistant. We didn't talk about that, Jazz, before. Yeah. So any of that stuff.
And
So go ahead.
oh, you are so right because you if anybody who is watching is currently in college, if you might be a freshman or a sophomore, anything like that, if you haven't started on working on your resume, I definitely suggest this is the prime time to do it. It's not, like high school where you could only get good grades and that mattered. It is excellent to get good grades in college. Very hard thing to do so, but because college is so competitive and everybody's getting good grades, you really want to make sure that you're doing something that is setting yourself apart. So make sure you're being proactive to find internship opportunities, find fellowship
Mm-hmm.
opportunities. There were times during my fellowship opportunities where I didn't want to do it, but I knew it was going to be beneficial for my future. There were times being a residential assistant. I had a really love hate relationship with that job because it is a 24-hour
I
job that
remember.
doesn't play. But let me tell you, it was worth it because it paid for 50% of my tuition. And so I'm going to do anything that's going to cover half of my tuition, especially to help out my mother.
Yeah.
So, just always keep pushing and make sure you're doing your job to build your resume so that when you get to grad school, you won't have any issues. You can say, look at everything that I've done. And they will usually tell you
Yeah.
in undergrad, for your resume, you want to make sure that you keep your resume to one page. And that is very true, especially if you're just starting out with undergrad. It is kind of inappropriate to go beyond the one page. But if you do acquire a lot of skills, that can be shown for a particular position to really get that job. And if it just so happens to run off of that one page, when you appropriately acquire that skill set, then it will look more appropriate for your resume to be longer. So don't be afraid about having a longer resume as well.
Very good advice. I hadn't thought about that, but yeah, you're at the point where you're on page 2, huh?
Yes, I am. I am.
Yeah. So going back a little bit to the beginning of undergrad, I remember Jazz had gotten her a financial aid award letter, and it was short. As she told you, she needed to that first year she covered pretty much tuition, and she was lacking a good portion of room and board. And I said, okay, Jazz, this is what you have to do. You're gonna have to let them know that they need to give you money. Like you're gonna have to like knock knock. I need some more money. And she had visited Bethune Cookman and made contact while she was there. And I said, do you have anybody's card? Did you make a personal connection? And she said yes. And I said, then you're gonna use that connection and say, remember how I wanted to come and do this, and this at the college. And that's why it's good to make those connections at that college because the person can remember what is it she said she was going to bring to this campus and why would I fight for her to have more money so that we can get her at this campus. And if you were watching the Combs family, Jess Kira talked about, no, the mom actually said that the dean said, what is it going to take for us to get her here? And so you want to network to that point where they know what your vision is for their campus and they have a good idea about why they will want you at their campus. So Jazz was able to articulate that. And so tell them a little bit about that process because you were like, I know I was pushing you and I was being obnoxious a little bit because I think I started texting you like every third or fourth.
You were staying on top of me for good reason,
About
though.
getting
It
that
was
money.
good.
So how did that go for you?
So basically, like you were saying, you were staying on top of me because I had told you, oh, I'm not getting as much as I thought I would be getting, and you said you need because at the time I was graduating high school with a 4.3. And so Miss Caraway was like, you need to call Cookman right now and you need to argue your case down, basically. And so from the English department, they actually ended up awarding me a Wildcat grant. And that was about $4,000 that they applied to my tuition every year. So it wasn't just for my freshman year, sophomore year, it was $4 extra thousand that was helping me all 4 years. So technically, it was a $16,000 scholarship, which was super beneficial.
Yeah.
Anything in college, it could be a $1 scholarship and it will help. So, yeah.
Yeah, so and I tell that story because a lot of times it's uncomfortable, right? It's uncomfortable. And I wanted to make sure I knew that she wasn't comfortable calling the school because I think I told her one day and then I kind of checked in a little bit later and she was like, well, I something, something, something. And I was like, no, 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 no. Call the school. You have to write them. I will give you the letter. Um, And so she was, I think she might have just been sick of me, but she went and got that $16,000. So it was totally worth it. That's probably the least amount of work you've ever done for $16,000 in your life.
Yeah.
And that's not being funny. I'm saying that in a sarcastic, like some of these things that we're uncomfortable doing, that is the very thing that we're going to need to do to get that extra for college and the extra as they move on to the next level. Jazz is not the baby, she was always, Jazz and I talked about everything, almost like she was already very mature for her age, put it that way. She was already very mature for her age, right? And but she is a grown woman now. And I have to remind myself sometimes that they're her and her little crew that they're not babies. But in my world, I can be overprotective and they are. So anyway, so now fast, so we went backwards, we found out about your money and we talked about your writing career and you're working on going to grad school and you're working on doing that with as little debt as possible as well, correct? All right. Why after going through college and everything, why would it be important for a student to join a program like Project 100 Full Rides? After you having that full, view, hindsight is 2020. Why would you say it's important for a student to get involved in a program like Project 100 Full Rides?
Okay, so I would say it's very important to participate in a project such as what you are doing, college mode entirely, project full 100 ride. I think it's just important because not every student is going to have an innate motivational force or drive within them to see the worth or the value that they bring. And so the uniqueness of what your program does, not just saying, oh, here are the list of scholarships, but also just how you are so proactive with your students and really making sure that you fine tune everything when it comes down to writing or comes down to submitting different applications, that you are really with the students, engaging them. That allows the student to see, okay, if she sees something in me, if this program sees something in me, then I can see something in myself. But not only that, I also feel like I was always looking for scholarships and things of that nature because of the time that I spent with you in high school, and always just having that motivation that you bring to the table. And it is that same motivation that you bring to the table as a person that is echoed and mirrored within your company, within your business. And so these are lifelong skill sets that you can take, not to just find scholarships, but to always have a drive within you that nothing in life is going to be handed easy, but that doesn't necessarily mean there aren't a lot of different opportunities for you to take advantage of. You just have to be taught how to take advantage of those opportunities. And Miss Caraway, your company definitely does that.
Thank you so much. So Jazz said a lot right there when she said those, and Tamia said that if you caught the interview with the Johnsons earlier before she had to get off, she pretty much said the same thing, which is just really powerful and it's something for me to reflect on, right? That when I'm passing this down, I'm always thinking like, if I have this assignment with these students about helping them go out in the world and be who they were meant to be and fulfill their purpose, like how do I best do that? And that's a question I'm always asking myself. Jess has had the fortunate or unfortunate, I don't know, some days it might have been unfortunate, advantage of seeing like me push her through the process for high school, but then while she was in college, seeing the behind the scenes of the complete journey that I've been on while I was building CollegeMode. And she's jumped in at different pieces and points in time to help build out like marketing copy and just little tools sometimes that I pass out in the group. Sometimes Jazz is the one that does the research and organizes that. And I can say, Jazz, like here's some sites. I need all of this stuff pulled and aggregated and put it into one thing. And she's like, really, Miss Carol? But she always says, okay. She always just says, okay. I think she watched my journey, and this is what I don't want for the students. And I think that's part of why I go so hard. She watched my journey as a teacher. It was very stressful for me as a teacher because of what I wanted for my students. And one of the things Jasmine used to say to me was, Miss Caraway, you don't have to be stressed. You don't have to be stressed. And I would say, but we have to get this done, that done. And she's like, you don't have to be stressed. And one of the things she told me, she said, she's been happy for me not to see me stressed. Like in this role, I am concerned, but the stress level she saw me at as a teacher and where I am here in my company are two very different animals.
Night and day.
And so I really enjoy. She's like night and day, y'all. Do y'all hear me?
But it's yeah, good. Like now she's on the day side. Now she's on the bright, sunny side.
There were some dark times because we were in a space where I had to protect them as students a lot. And that meant going to war with people. And it wasn't always positive. It didn't leave me always in a positive space. I'm being very honest. Because I was constantly battling for what I felt was right for them and what I had to do. And so I just appreciate her for her honesty. And she's always just spoke her mind. She's had those moments where she's corrected me too. I'm not above reproach, and I let the students know that. And I think that helps them to know like I'm a real person and I make mistakes just like they do. And they can correct me or they can advise me or whatever. Like, they're more knowledgeable about certain things than I will ever be because that's just not my lane. So I appreciate all of that. And Project 100 Full Rides, guys, is open. It's open for enrollment. But we are looking for students that are serious. As you can see, my case studies this week. These students, it's not that they were perfect. They all attest to their weaknesses and their moments, right? But I'm not looking for perfection. I'm looking for somebody that wants to come along on this journey and do what it takes to become the person on the other side. Tamara talked about like being a different person after going through this program. And so I'm looking for kids that are willing to go through that shift, even though it will be uncomfortable at times and all of that. I'm looking for people that are willing to do that. And so I have a survey, bit.ly/, Scholar Dollars survey. It's right here on the bottom, scrolling across the screen. If you're interested in your kids signing up for Project 104 Rides, that survey is for you as a parent. You can do it with them, but I'm really looking for your insight because this requires a time commitment as well as a financial commitment. And so, one thing I had to come to terms with is people don't commit to things that they haven't committed to, like in the way of money or time, like that they don't have to commit to. And so, going through this process requires you to do both. If you're interested in getting your kid that level of service where Ms. Caraway will ride your back when you say you want to do something, Jazz can attest to that. If you say you want to do something, Ms. Caraway will keep harassing you
Yeah.
until you do the steps to get that thing done.
But it's all with love though. It's not anything bad. Like honestly, we all need a little push. So
Yeah.
it is I'm grateful for it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all with love. But if you know you need the other voice in the room, Latasha Lighter talked earlier this week about me being the voice in the room for her daughter. If you just know you need that extra level of support and you need to know that somebody else is being a safety net for your kid, that's what we're here for. And we're looking to build the next generation of debt-free scholars who are graduating from college. The reason why that is important, we are not going to be able to build generational wealth until we stop getting into this debt.
Mhm.
Bottom line, like you're building in the next, you have to come out and get to zero, and then you can start building when you start off with this debt early in life. If you start off at zero, now you're building from the very beginning. And
Mhm.
that's what I want to see for our young people. And that's why Project 104 Rise pretty much exists, is I want to see them walk into their destiny with as many resources, head starts, everything that they could possibly ever need on that journey and well equipped for it. So one last thing, Jasmine, tell them about the last, was it 24, 36 hours?
Tell
Tell
them
them
about
whatever
what?
you would like to share about that and give your final words.
I apologize. What?
Um, Tell them about the last 24 to 30, 24 to
Oh,
48 hours as a writer for you. Tell them whatever you want to share. You don't even have to share the whole, because there's a lot going on behind the scenes, guys. It'll all come out eventually. It'll all come out eventually. But there's a lot going on behind the scenes. And I just want her to share a little bit, and so you all can be encouraged that even at this moment, we're in a pandemic. Jasmine just graduated and had to have a parade instead of a regular graduation like we planned. And we've been planning since August about how big this Miami, like we were gonna party together with some friends and family and all that stuff, and that just didn't happen because of what's going on. But she's had some exciting stuff happen. So tell them a little bit about that and give them your parting words, please.
Okay, no problem. And thank you once again. I just want to say thank you so much for this. Thank you for interviewing me, Miss Caraway. Like honestly, I was really
You're
just floored
welcome.
when you said, "Oh, I would love to interview," and I'm like, "Wow, that's amazing." So thank you. These last
You're welcome.
24 to 36 hours have been so interesting because you never really know how fast your life is going to change. Um, so like I was joking around with Miss Caraway earlier, I am not a morning person at all. I usually always sleep through all of my mornings, and I usually wake up around 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Always been like that. And even though for college, I would have morning classes, I would only wake up for those morning classes, and then I would go back to sleep because I'm just not a morning person. But for whatever reason, about 2 or 3 days ago now, I the night before, I ended up going to sleep early, and then 2 or 3 days ago from now, I ended up waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and it's just a regular day. It's a normal day. I'm
Amazing.
just thankful. I'm thankful to be up, meditating, talking to my grandmother, like just a regular normal day. Just happy though to just be doing the normal stuff. And then out of nowhere, I get a text message from Miss Caraway, and she says, "Hey, listen, I need a job for somebody to do a copyright for something." And I'm like, "Okay, fine, I'll do it." And the person the person that it's for is for somebody that has worked in Hollywood for over 25 years and is very well known in the business. And now she has me doing different projects for her, like writing different small projects for her. And I'm just so thankful because I would have never thought that in a million years that this would have ever happened, especially not so quickly after my graduation. And the ironic part about this is that the same day that I got the opportunity to write a copy for this individual was the exact same day that my degree had been officially awarded to me. And so that is just amazing to
Oh,
know that it hadn't even been 24 full hours and I was already getting blessed with different paid writing opportunities. So I guess I would really want to just leave with this by saying if you have a dream, go for it. Never limit yourself. Your fears are the only things that will ever hold you back. There is literally nothing to fear itself except for fear. So always just be brave. And I know that sounds a lot easier said than done, but everything is energy. And so, with that being said, the more time that you take to really think positively about your life, the more time you invest into yourself, the more time that you have faith, whatever faith it is that you practice, as long as you keep that faith and be grateful and humble and thankful for every opportunity, I promise that energy will always return back to you.
well said. Amen. So, Jazz, and I don't think it was so much. I want to say this. Anytime my students show me that they will go for something, I will give them the opportunity. Age is not the barrier for me. If they're
Mm-hmm.
gifted, they can do it whether they're in the 10th grade, 8th grade, college graduate, whatever it is. But I will say she has rose to the occasion over and over again. So I want to invite you to talk to your kids about that. They need to be able to rise to the occasion. So when opportunities like these come, I didn't hesitate in first contacting her, and she was actually doing something. She was busy at the initial moment, but it was her thing. Like it was designated for her. So it came back around in the morning and she was ready to go. So I just want to invite you. And she wasn't, when I talked to the person, they were like, we got on the phone and she nailed that thing. Like, oh my God, I'm ready to participate in this activity because of what she wrote. And so just know you have to be willing sometimes when you put on the spot. Like Tamia talked about with her music, she was put on the spot, like performing and stuff. You have to be willing, if that's your thing, to just step out front when the opportunities come.
Mm-hmm.
And I will leave you all. Thank you so much, Jasmine, for working with me. We've had to reschedule you. You've been so gracious this week with everything. And I will see you all next time. Let me know if you have questions in the comments.
Bye, y'all.